and we are live.
All right, thank you. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It is Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Good evening and welcome to the virtual meeting of the City of Dublin Board of Zoning Appeals. The Ohio Legislature passed several emergency laws to address the pandemic, including the ability for public entities to have virtual meetings. For the present time, we are holding our meetings online and live streaming those meetings on YouTube. You can access the live stream on the city's website. In order to submit any questions or comments during the meeting, please use the form under the streaming video on the city's website. These questions and comments will be relayed to the board by the meeting moderator. We want to accommodate public participation to the greatest extent possible and welcome your comments on cases. Please use a valid name and address when submitting your comments and refrain from making any inappropriate comments. This is not a perfect system, but we will do our best and we appreciate your patience. May we please have the roll call?
Mr. Deschler?
Here.
Mr. Nye?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
And Ms. Herbert is excused.
Thank you. Now, we're going to go to the acceptance of documents and the approval of the meeting minutes. First of all, do I have a motion to accept the documents into the record and to approve the January 28th, 2021 meeting minutes?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Deschler?
Yes.
Mr. Nye?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will do the swearing in of witnesses and the staff who will be presenting the cases tonight. The case tonight. We have a single case tonight. So anyone intending to address the board on cases this evening, and I do need the Haases to come back, I think, on video and audio for this. Please stand or sit, raise your right hand, and answer in the affirmative. And Zach, are you here as well? Or Tammy, I'm sorry, it's Tammy on this one. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony to this board?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Our case, we have one case tonight, Haas Residence, located at 7099 Old Pros Court in Dublin. It's case number 21-001V, and it's a non-use area variance request. Ms. Noble is our presenter tonight, and I will give her a moment to present or to share her presentation with the board.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Can everyone see that?
See, okay, yes, Haas Residence is up. Yep.
Okay, great, thanks. And you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you this evening. The current application is for the Haas Residence. This was an original application that was prepared for last meeting. It is deciding on two variance requests dealing with the proposal of the addition of a pool location that deals with two zoning code requirements. One is a rear yard setback requirement. The second is a minimum spacing requirement between a residence and a pool. This would require two motions from the board. And just as background information, the applicant was originally scheduled to be on the agenda for last month. Based on the complexities of the case, we wanted some time with the applicant, or the applicant wanted some time with us to talk about what the options were. We collectively met and decided that we would move forward with the original request and just decide at the board's indications as how to move forward with this application. So the site that you see indicated in yellow is approximately a 0.28 acre tract of land. It's rather large for the existing area. Excuse me, it's located on the west side of Old Prose Court, just north of Fitzpatrick. This is the Hemingway Village subdivision, which is actually a straight zoning district. It's zoned R4, which is a suburban residential district. You can see its close proximity to the Devlin Kaufman School, and the primary boundaries are Kaufman Road to the east and Post Road to the south. More specifically, you can see the layout of the site. We are looking at a cul-de-sac, so the shape is slightly irregular, but it simply widens to the rear of the property. It does include a single-family residential structure to the forefront of the property and some amenities to the rear. The site does have a 25-foot setback, and fortunately for the applicants, the residential structure is constructed on the setback, so that leaves a great portion to the rear of the property. You can also see there's some vegetation to the rear of the property that we want to be cognizant of. This is the plat for Hemingway Village. Again, it's a R4 district. The zoning requirements for the rear yard setback is a formula-based configuration, and the applicant is requesting to encroach in the setback by 2 feet. The other requirement is a distance requirement between the primary structure and the pole, of which is required to be a minimum of 10 feet, and the applicant is requesting to encroach approximately 3 feet 1 inches into that setback. This is a configuration of the house. The roadway would be to the top of the screen. You see the existing structure. There's an existing porch that's been constructed by the applicants. The applicants are proposing to construct a pool. It's approximately 648 square feet in size. And again, it'll encroach into the rear yard setback by approximately 2 feet and will not meet the distance requirement from the residence by approximately 3 feet 1 inches. The applicant has addressed the criteria that are asked of a variance application. Essentially, their request is that being on a cul-de-sac, the site is slightly elongated and irregular in shape, and that the pool that they're requesting is a stagnant size, and that they can't deviate from a particular dimension for the pool. We have talked since, and that could be something that we discuss further in the application. But essentially, we're stating that for a cul-de-sac, this site is slightly irregular in shape. It's actually quite large in terms of a rear yard setback, or rear yard accommodations, I should say, for a suburban community. And so we would like to address the following criteria ourselves and allow the applicant to address them as well. In terms of special conditions, again, the site is fairly regular in size. It's large. They do have outdoor space, which includes a chimney that they are attempting to keep some pedestrian movement between. We do agree that that's a priority, but the idea of the size of the rear yard and the location of the pool, we think might accommodate some more useful space. In terms of actions or inactions of the applicant, the criteria states that the applicant cannot contribute to the I guess the demise of the application. In this particular instance, the most particularly restraining factor is the existing outdoor space in terms of the screen porch and the fireplace. And that's creating basically an area where the applicants can't encroach. They were the original constructors of that area, so we would say that unfortunately the applicants have contributed to that particular instance in this criteria. In terms of intent and repair of the criteria, we would say that there are some design challenges to the application, but we feel like with some modifications, the applicant might be able to meet the zoning code requirements, and that if we were to allow a deviation from this variance, it would show preferential treatment to the applicant. I typically rely less on these criteria because they're usually quite easy to meet, if you will. And in terms of special privileges, again, we do believe that the applicant has a great deal of outdoor space. We think we can work with the applicant to meet these requirements. So we would welcome the opportunity to do so. The request is not recurrent in nature. It does not require any type of zoning code amendments. It does not impact any type of governmental services. And again, we do believe that there might be some mitigation that we can do for the application, but we do really want to have the applicant express their request for the application and explain to the board what they're trying to achieve. So with that, we are recommending disapproval for both variances with the idea that we feel like there are some alternative options that we can explore. But again, I'll work with the applicant to address any questions that the board has at this point. Marty, I think you're talking, but I think you're on mute.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to end the awkward silence. I wasn't sure if that was a transition for us to comment or not.
No, I don't think it was. Marty, were you saying something? Did you want to?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get the screen back so I could unmute, and maybe I remuted again. But thank you for your presentation, Tammy. And do the staff or do the board members have any questions for staff?
I'd like to
No
wait
questions for
to
staff.
hear the applicant's statement first before I have some questions, but I want to hear what the applicant has to say first.
Same.
All right, then let's proceed to have the applicant present their position on this variance request.
Thank you. Sorry for jumping in there. My name's Brian Lorenz, 4111 Village Club Drive in Powell. Here representing Mr. and Mrs. Haas. Mrs. Haas is with me here, homeowner. And we've been working with staff on this project for 3 or 4 months now, as far as trying to maximize the best layout and the best size for this project to be feasible. And I know that Tammy has gone through some of the conditions within the findings of fact, and we do feel that the irregular lot layout and the extension of the chimney creates a hardship for us. Our biggest concern for the location of the pool as it is right now is for safety of the family. Mr. Haas's mother is often at the house, and she is watching the kids quite a bit. She has a somewhat difficult time moving around. And so the current placement, which we've shown you, which would require 2 variances with the size of the pool, we felt didn't deter from the code. It was the minimum necessity that we could present. Obviously, we have some differences of opinion on that, and that's fine. But having worked with Tammy, and as she's mentioned, we are willing to. We've taken a look at some of our options, and we're willing to, talk about making some concessions to the size of the pool. When I originally submitted the application, I was of the understanding that the pool came in the size only that it did. And it was designed, and the Haas family picked it specifically because they not only want to use it for entertainment, but therapy as well, especially for Mr. Haas's mother, who's again over here quite a bit. Since that time, we've done some investigation into pool sizes. I think we modify the size of the request and perhaps alleviate the setback variance. And so we'd be willing to do that. But I guess before I would volunteer that, I'd probably like to get the feedback from the board. We're just trying to create the best situation possible with being as close to compliance with the code as we can. Obviously, variances are not meant to just be given away, but we feel that our hardship comes from a safety and the issue with the chimney and how it plays into the edge of the pool. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Can you tell me more how you believe the chimney plays a factor with regard to safety?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so the way off of the screened-in patio, there would only, I think I'm saying this right.
Mm-hmm.
So off of the screened-in patio, the chimney is built onto that. And with the way the plans are, it would only allow like this much space.
2 feet.
Yeah, 2 feet for anybody walking past that. And I just feel like it would be, with my mother-in-law and her difficulty walking and watching the kids, it would just, I don't think it would aesthetically look right at all, because there's so much space in the back that I understand we can't, go into that, but it would be real close up to the house, and especially where that chimney is, which is probably about 4 feet in length. There's only going to be about 2 feet of space between that chimney and the pool, and the chimney is a stone chimney. I just feel like it's not enough space to for her to get around there, and even adults and kids, I just feel like that's not enough space next to water. That worries me. I don't know if they can they see that, like the way the drawings?
They all have copies.
Yeah, we have your drawings.
And they can ask for it to be put up too.
Okay.
And another thing, I think it sort of creates a site visibility issue as well. And so having some of that extra distance between where the edge of the pool might be and the chimney would be beneficial from a health, safety, and welfare standpoint.
So just to be clear here, and I pulled up one of the drawings. So it sounds as if there's, I'm not saying you're locked into the concession yet.
Sure.
But it sounds as if and I read the statement earlier, I think earlier today, but I read it last month about the standard pool size, and you mentioned that potentially you can maybe get a smaller pool size. So in reality, the one variance that we really need to concentrate on, I just want to make sure here, is to the extent there's an agreement on a concession. But the one from the fireplace, that's the primary issue, right? Is that right, Tammy? Is that good clarity?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if they could mitigate around that variance. It's the rear edge setback that I think that could be.
In my mind, the one factor that keeps coming up is that was done by the homeowner, perhaps. And I know that you weren't thinking maybe of putting in a pool when you put in the screen and porch. I understand that. Okay, I'm good right now. I have some thoughts, but I'll let my fellow board members ask questions.
And I would concur with that, Jason. I think your thought process is right on.
If I could only go back.
Hindsight's 20/20 always, right?
All right,
That's
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, Jason, I think that's what my main struggle as well, and especially some of the ones we've ruled on over the past few months have been, did they purchase the home with this condition or did they create it? And clearly with the code and how we've handled some of the other ones, if you create it even not intentionally, you know, we didn't, as I always say, we didn't write this. We have to just interpret it. And so,
Of course.
you know, it's just kind of what's there. The other thing is I see where where Tammy's talking about as well. I don't know that a cul-de-sac lot is something unique. Looking at the shape of it, it looks pretty similar to all other ones that are there. My struggle, obviously, like Tammy said, the second one where you have to meet 2 of 4 criteria, it's if you can get the first ones, those are pretty easy to get to. It's trying to figure out a way to get those first 4. And I don't think any of us would tell you we think that 2 feet's enough to have by the chimney and the pool, or that we don't understand where you're coming from. It's that, can we get there by meeting these criteria? And I think that's the struggle. I don't see how we can get there, but I completely understand what you're asking for and why. And I think that's a fair request. It's just, I don't know that we can find a way to get there given, you know, the parameters that we're constrained by.
You know, I might be able to add something that I feel like I may have not adequately addressed. The separation between the building, the primary structure, and the pool. One thing that I will say is unique to this application is the exterior facade that actually is directly related to the pool. There's no entrance or exit from that area. So, and I can pull up a visual if that's helpful, but point being is that's normally why that 10-foot separation is required, because whatever your most exterior elevation is, that's where you have your door, right? So then you exit that area and then you go to the pool. The reason this application is slightly different is they don't exit from that exterior elevation. They actually exit from the side elevation. So again, I can show you a visual if that's helpful.
Yeah, can we do that?
Of course, yep.
Thanks, Tammy.
Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So typically speaking, in that green area that you're looking at, that's their screened in porch. And typically there would be a door or walkway out into the pool. That's not the case. The case is actually to the western edge of the property. I don't know if I can, so here.
Off the patio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is where they exit. So if you think about it, they probably have more than 10 feet distance to get to the pool. It's just not a regular configuration for most houses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
But again, if safety is the main concern here, then why would we want to grant a variance that cuts the safety corner? If it's too skinny, it's too skinny.
Well, the distance requirement that we're speaking of right now is the distance between the primary structure and the pool. So in other
Yeah.
words, they want a number of feet where if someone exits the house, that there's a time or a, a capability of acquiring that person without them being in danger's way. In this particular instance, I think that we almost meet that, because if the side entrance is more than 10 feet from the pool, then there is that reactive time to respond. The other thing that our building department had recommended that we could also require when they do a building permit, that we could require a sounding device on the back door, which when the back door opens, it would audibly allow you to identify that someone's leaving the premise. So I guess I'm less concerned with this particular requirement, ironically, with safety, but there's some other components that we can add into this. It's the rear yard setback that I feel like we're not really sure that there's criteria to go along with it.
Tammy,
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
can you speak? And obviously I want to make sure I'm completely understanding this from what we just went over. With regard to the second, not the rear yard setback, but the aspect of the variance, can you show me where, if it met code on this diagram, how far would it need to be, or where would it be at the edge of the pool?
Yeah, so from this point, from the rear of that covered porch
Okay.
to the pool, there would be a 10-foot separation.
Okay.
And right now there's approximately a 7-foot separation at best.
7-foot separation from the proposed location of the pool is from that very corner, not from the corner of like the fireplace, correct?
It's the closest point. So hold on. So it's the closest point. So from that point to this point.
Because in looking at this one drawing, this other drawing I have, it's pointing to, and I know we're handicapped by not being together, but that little box there,
Yeah.
there you go, is the existing fireplace. And it almost looks like that would be a closer point.
Yeah, I mean, Marty, that's a good point. I mean, the actual requirement says the primary structure separated from the pool. So I guess if you included the chimney, that might get a little closer. I was actually.
Well, what is?
I mean, is the chimney built into the porch, or is it a separate structure?
It's built into the porch, right?
But is the covered porch a built-in finished room, or is it an open porch?
It's
Under the definition, it's part of the structure because it has a foundation and it's permanently affixed. It's part of the structure.
Okay.
Which is the dilemma.
So are we saying that if we say the fireplace is the point we should be measuring from instead of the wall of the porch, then there's no way we can meet, it doesn't help the case, it just makes it worse, correct? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that's the case. I'm just clarifying that her point she's taking is on that corner of the covered porch area,
Yep,
which
understand.
she must consider as part of the primary structure.
Yep.
Is the covered porch heated?
no.
Well, there's a fireplace.
It's yeah.
Yeah, as a
That's why you have the fireplace.
Fireplace. Tammy,
Yeah,
question?
I'm just asking because I have a covered porch, but it's not heated. It's just an open air, enclosed, screened in porch.
But if I might go back to the intent of the requirement. So let me ask the applicant to be perfectly clear. There is no exit point at this exterior edge of that covered porch, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So again, the point in this regulation is that if someone were to exit this structure and go to the pool, that there's a 10-foot separation where someone could circumvent that problem. So,
Right, and isn't that area there coming off isn't that the proposed egress coming off of that covered porch?
no, the egress that's the whole point is, sorry.
I'm sorry, I guess I've been confused.
No. My cursor has gotten,
The egress is shown, I don't even know, on the west
Yeah.
side.
that's exactly right.
But isn't that greater than 10 feet from where somebody would exit the covered porch?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. So the point in the regulation is almost being met because they're exiting. And why did I not get my cursor?
I mean, almost
So-
being met. I mean,
They're exiting from closer to the main house to get to the pool. It's more than
Right.
10 feet.
Right. Exactly. But just to be absolutely correct, that's not what the regulation says. It says basically from the most exterior wall of your structure, you need 10-foot separation. So I'm saying the intent of the regulations being met, the actual language is more complicated.
sure. And I
So,
think, what did you say at its closest point? It's 7 feet from the close corner.
Right.
This is about 7 feet, but if you measure from here to the pool, you're talking about, that has to be 30 feet. So,
I'm not
But
sure we
from
want to
that
set a
one
precedent
corner-
where large covered porches start to change the regs this much. Do we really want to do that? It sets up a precedent that is a little concerning.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think, Alicia, it's because of where the door is. If you had the door where the fireplace is, I mean, that's a problem. But
I tend to agree with that. But
I don't know
if
here. I'm just,
you have the door so far away, we have approved some encroachments to the house from the 10-foot setback.
we did, Marty, we did one. It was in Riviera for a pool, and it was a covered patio that had the foundation. And they,
Yeah, Jason, I think
Joe, were you on that one? I can't remember. Were you on that?
I think they had to have the zero entrance because the person was in a wheelchair or something, if I remember right.
Well, they had a certain kind of pool, but it was the same. I think that was the same kind of variance.
They had to come in closer to the house, and they
Correct.
wanted a specific pool. So I think the pool itself had a ramp so they could access it in a wheelchair. But the need for the pool to be closer to the house to encroach on the 10-foot was the issue.
Correct, because they had it was a covered patio with a foundation, or a covered porch.
Correct.
Yeah, Jason, because I remember specifically asking, and Tammy, I can't remember if you presented that one or not, if they would have they had a 1-inch gap between the house and the structure, if that would not count. And they said, that's correct. It's because it's connected to the house. That 1 inch makes the difference.
Right.
right.
All right. So here, I obviously I want a little more clarity here. So if can you, and this is for the applicant, what are you saying the size of the pool would be? For instance, if we would allow you to have the variance from the porch, what are we looking at? What from a size wise? Are you saying then you could be in compliance with the rear yard setback by getting a smaller pool?
Yeah, what we would have to do and what we would be willing to do, there's various widths on the pool. This one's 18 is presented. We'd be willing to go down to a 16-foot width. And then that eliminates the need for the encroachment into the rear yard setback. And so I think in talking with the Haas family, that gives them enough room and for the pool to, enjoy it and make the project make sense. And so we would propose to go ahead and do that. We eliminate one of the requests for the variances and, try and make the request a little bit more palatable.
And the thing that I think of with that is if the concern for the other variance is safety, would it be more logical to move it to 2 feet into the setback,
Right.
create that spacing from the house? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If we have 2 feet to play with.
Yeah. What about
Safety part?
I mean, we discussed this to the nth degree. The problem is, what is the special circumstances allowing you or requiring you to go into the rear yard setback? Is it the minimum spacing requirement from a house to a pool? And if so, they constructed the screened-in porch. So it's almost like a catch-22.
and we're using the screen and porch again for the setback piece as well, because it pushes the pool into the.
Well, we're using the screened-in porch as the distance because that isn't a fixed structure.
Right.
So allowing them to come in closer to a fixed structure is where the need for the variance is. Now, I have a separate question on the setback at the back. The 28-foot setback is fairly significant. And I do note that this particular property is fenced in completely with a privacy fence. Just as a side note, have there been any comments submitted on this property's variance request, either for or against by the community?
Zach might be able to help me, but I don't believe that we've received anything. No.
There have not been. No.
Okay. And I had another question for clarification, and that is that you're not encroaching on any of the side setbacks. It's just the rear setback, which is 28 feet. And is that Hemingway wide, or is that's an entire community setback
No, it's just,
requirement?
yeah, it's throughout Hemingway Village.
Thank you. That was my understanding, but okay, so 28 feet there for any structure.
Well, I should specify it's a calculated formula, so it's a percentage of the rear yard setback. So if your yard is smaller, your setback would be smaller. So it's the same standard for everyone, but the number would be different.
Okay. And we don't have any problem with the side setbacks that are proposed for the design.
True.
All right. I think that answers my questions in terms of the structure and the proposed. I think we have a more problematic issue with the back variance than I do with the house versus covered porch structure. But that's just my analysis here, that it seems we have less of a existing hardship to the owner on the rear setback requirement than we do or in considering how they would meet the, and also in considering how we've handled pools closer to the structure because of a porch before. So that's kind of where I'm falling on this.
Right. You know, the difference here, I mean, honestly, is the location of the egress from the screen and porch. I mean, if it was just a covered patio, or if the door for the screen and porch where the fireplace is, I think that's a significant issue. It's just so far away. I know I don't know if we get around the criteria. I just because of they built the structure.
I mean, but Jason, what we could say, I mean, again, they're meeting the intent of the requirement.
I'm with you. So I can get around that. Joe, I want to go back to that you said. It's almost as if you're like, why don't we do the 16-foot pool, but push it into the setback instead of having it the distance of the from that screen and patio, right?
Yeah.
The porch. What does the applicant think of that? Just out of curiosity.
Go ahead.
I love that. That's what I wanted. To me, if you could see the yard, and I know it's hard, I mean, on the plan, but to me, I feel like it would look better anyways. There would still be so much space. I mean, 28 feet, when we like paced that out, it's such a significant amount of space. Like, I would love for the pool to actually be pushed further back in the yard and away from the house. That would make me feel better about everything. But this is safety first, and then of course, how it would look.
Which is why if it were just as easy as us picking, I would say move it 2 feet back and call it a day. The problem I think Tammy brings to us, which is, I like that idea. The struggle still is, how do we get the criteria met to allow that to happen? And I don't think the way this is written that we can, we have to meet all three of the criteria, and I just don't see how we get there.
I mean, so it's in theory, if we're thinking of the smaller pool, but into the rear yard setback instead of the variance for the screen and patio or porch, it's almost the same issue, Joe. I think, because from the door aspect, I mean, I don't know. We're almost. This is interesting. I'm honestly not sure here, frankly. Hey, Tammy, did we verify the ratio for the setback? Has that been confirmed by the homeowners association or anything, or do we have that? Any confirmation on that setback since it's not a straight, 5 to 10 feet or what have you? It's actually a ratio.
I mean, we would base that on the information that the applicant gave us. So it is a survey. So
If I may jump in here, this is Zach. The requirement is 20% of the average of the two side yards. That's the requirement for all lots within this development. So we did, I did verify that setback is correct.
Okay.
And then, Sarah, I don't know which one of you guys would know this, but does the pool also come in a 14-foot width?
I'm not certain. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
Because when you said there are multiple ones, it seems like the 18 is taken. If we get to 14 feet, we've eliminated both, and you get exactly what you want. We don't have to deal with either one of these two things where we can't find a way, and you're able to put your pool. I know it's 4 feet more narrow, and I know that's significant when it comes to square footage, but I think it finds a way to get you where you want to be. Maybe not exactly what you want, but it keeps us from having to find these two things and allows you to get there.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
not.
That is nearly a 25%, 20% reduction in the width of the pool.
Mhm.
That is, in my opinion, significant.
I think
I'd feel better about pushing back against the rear setback if we had any comments from the neighbors at all about whether they're supportive of that.
I mean, they had the
So
ability to.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not making a more narrow pool and we're pushing it back,
Mhm.
we don't have any comments. I don't know if that's because they're okay with it or they're not aware of what's going on, or I'd feel better if we knew.
Sorry.
So I was going to say someone was aware because there was a big sign out in front of the house last month before the hearing about it. And I would maybe make the argument that no comment adverse to the design here, no public comments have been received in objection to the proposed variances, which I am well aware there was a big sign, a placard sign, probably 2.5 feet by 3 feet, 3.5 feet tall, sitting in front advertising the hearing last
Right.
month.
What about behind the house? Would the
Well,
neighbor
behind the
behind
house-
have known that?
Behind the house, those residents, this house has a privacy fence around the entire perimeter of the backyard.
Mhm.
That was what I was going to
Yeah.
say, was that it's already fenced in. So I feel like it wouldn't impact them, but
So what I'm saying is that 28 foot, and maybe this is a point of clarification, but I'm assuming that 28 foot is within that. Is your privacy fence, because it predates the fencing requirements, is it a lot line fence?
is it on the lot line?
I
I
don't
believe
know.
it is.
In other words, you're not mowing a foot or so, or 2
No,
foot
No.
around
no.
the outside of it.
No,
And
No.
your
it marks
neighbors,
their
there's
property.
actually, I believe there's another neighbor that actually ties onto that fence. Is that correct? Does the neighbor behind, or maybe a little to the one side, also have a privacy fence that abuts it or ties off of it?
Not directly behind us. And there's a lot. What are it's not privacy though. I forget what they're called, the shorter ones.
The shorter fences.
Like a chain link or a
Yeah, it's not chain
It's
link,
not
it's
chain.
wood, but it's
flat?
yeah, it's
Slats.
slats, and it's shorter. It's not privacy.
It was hard to kind of see the which structures and houses. I mean, I drove around it and around the backside of it to try and look, and it wasn't really clear. I must admit I did not get out and pace it off, but I could see clearly your yard was fully fenced in by the privacy fence.
Correct.
So that 28 foot is within your privacy fence, and you've already met the setback on the front, and you're not encroaching on any of the side setbacks, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
So
Well, I think as far as it goes with the public comment, I mean, I think I usually interpret it to mean nothing. If someone doesn't say positive or negative, that means nothing to me. I think we should probably, if it's open for public comment, say they had their opportunity. I know what Alicia's saying is, if you're in a cul-de-sac and you put it in front of your house, maybe 1% of your 3 neighbors are going to see the sign, so people don't really have notice of it. I don't know that makes a difference to me that much that you didn't get the public comment. I take that as no one's opposed to it, that they had the opportunity that they're required to get and they didn't do it. But I would prefer to push it back. The problem is we can have all the conversation we want to about calculations and fences. I don't know how we meet the 3 criteria, and that's what I think we have to figure out is we can push it. That's great. Can we meet the 3 criteria? I don't see us getting there. That's the problem I run into.
Is there, Zach or Tammy, is there no notice to adjacent homeowners when there's a request up?
We're required to
Right.
send written notice to all neighbors within 150 feet of the property. So that's to the front, side, or rear. We would have sent 2 notices since this has gone to 2 meetings. So neighbors were notified of this.
I would say that's double
Yeah.
notice.
And I would like to add, with respect to that sign, you could clearly see it off of Fitzgerald, because this cul-de-sac tees off of Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald tees off of Adventure, and you could clearly see it. When I pulled by the first loop around, I knew exactly where the house was without seeing the address, because there was a big green and white Dublin sign. There's a hearing. That was for last month. Now, when I went by today, there wasn't the sign there. But as Zach just said, notice was given to all the neighbors, and within 100 feet would be everybody pretty much on the cul-de-sac.
And you did speak to your neighbors, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
And no one voiced any opposition as well, so.
Well, they certainly had their
the neighbors
opportunity
being
to
the
do
reason
so.
for
Right.
I could grab them and they could tell you if they want it to happen.
I mean, you know, as far as notice, we've followed the requirements.
I
You know,
I think we're okay.
I don't think that's
on
going
the
to make a
notice.
difference. at all.
Hey, here's my take on this. This is how I see it. You know, we can try to short track this thing. As of now, I don't see. I think it would be great to get the 16-foot pool pushed back into the rear yard setback. Unfortunately, I just don't think from a code perspective it's there. However, I'm supportive of the smaller pool closer to the structure. I think, in my opinion, the intent of the code is satisfied by the location of the egress, and I'd be willing, to move on that aspect so long as the homeowner agrees to the smaller pool, the 16-foot. And then I think if we want, I'm indifferent with regards to some kind of sounding device. I'm not necessarily certain that's required here, because I think it is greater than 10 feet from that closest egress. But again, I'm indifferent on that aspect.
Jason, I'm going to agree with you on that as well, that I am in favor of the variance to be granted for the 3-foot 1 inch to come in closer to the house based on the design, based on the adding of the egress there off of that enclosed what we call an enclosed structure, and not really seeing a basis on which to encroach on the 28-foot unless somebody accidentally made a miscalculation on that, which Zach has already weighed in that it was double checked. So that's where I would be. As far as any kind of additional requirements, I think the homeowner's insurance company will have something to say about what kind of safety devices they need on their door. And just as a final note, this property is already fully enclosed with a privacy fence, so they are have that security as well.
Joe, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm on the fence. No pun intended.
How about you, Alicia? Do you have any final thoughts or comments on our position on this?
It doesn't meet the criteria. We've got to either agree that we're going to start breaking the criteria, and which just invites more variance requests, or we stick to the criteria and try to shrink this down so it fits correctly. So,
but how do you feel about the criteria being met on the, as Tammy noted, on the 3-foot 1 inch closer, or encroachment, if you will, to the principal structure, when in fact it is going to be more than 10 feet from what I would characterize as the principal structure?
I think because of where the door is, it probably meets the intent of the code, but not if they put the wider pool in.
Right.
I think we're under the assumption that they're going to be reducing the proposal, which was an 18 width, to a 16.
Just as a formality, Tammy, if we would grant the encroachment on the 3-foot 1 inches to the pool, to the building, primary structure, but deny the encroachment into the 28-foot setback because of not meeting the criteria, will they have to resubmit their plans in compliance with that?
No, I'm jotting down notes as we speak. I think what we could do is, again, these are two separate motions. So what I might propose to the board based on your comments is that we would hear a motion to, it's section 153.074 C4, which is the separation requirement. We could vote on that particular motion with the condition that the pool is minimized to a 16-foot width. And then we would hear the second variance request with what seems to be a denial.
And Tammy, just to check, our paperwork says C3 is the
Yeah, C3
not
is
C4.
Encroachment into the required 10-foot distance from the principal structure.
You're right. Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry.
I one more question. I think I have an idea. Sarah, may I ask you a question? Did I understand? You're on mute too, just when you answer, so you know.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. When you said between the current location of the chimney and the pool, you said it's about this distance. Are you saying that there's how much distance if you went to this size pool? I know it's not moving it back any. What's the distance between the chimney and the edge of the pool?
It's probably about 3 feet, 2.5 feet.
So almost too small for me to walk through there.
With the variance or without the variance?
Well,
see, Jason, that's the problem. The variance isn't moving the location of the pool. It's just letting them put it right there. That's what I thought you were saying earlier. It's literally, there's going to be a walkway this wide for them to go along the edge of the pool. That's the safety concern I was thinking about too, is you would literally have to walk sideways to get along the edge of the pool.
But that was with the 18.
yeah, well, and that was with an 18-foot pool. And so what you'll do is reduce the pool by 2 feet in width.
Yeah.
So essentially you're going to have the same size. It'll have to be surveyed out. I think it'll be in the neighborhood of 3 feet, which is, that should be wide enough for anyone to get through.
It's a little wider than a standard sidewalk.
Yeah, the 3 feet's different. So my understanding, and I want to make sure I understand this then kind of footprint wise, I thought when you did 2 foot less in width, you were just taking the 2 feet off of the setback portion. So tell me how that's creating, if you create 2 feet in the back, how are you creating a foot in the front? And it's probably my misunderstanding.
I believe the distance between the pool and the edge of the chimney is like 2.5 feet. And so you're not increasing anything or decreasing anything. So you're right. It'll be tight, but it'll almost be sidewalk width.
Okay. Tammy, is there any safety things you can think of in the code regarding that? I mean, what if it was right up against, let me ask you this. If this wasn't attached to their house, we have this covered porch but not attached to their house, could the pool be butted right up against it? And could you literally, if there was no wall there, walk out the porch into the pool?
I mean, I did contact our building department to ask, what should I be considering? So this
Right.
chimney, right, is built to contain whatever heat mechanisms are happening within that fireplace.
Sure.
And other than pedestrian movement, they weren't concerned with any type of literally safety components.
Yeah, I think with the intent is, there's no way I'm going to get there on the setback, but I think we can meet the intent given the location, and I think I would be willing to approve the variance for the 10 feet for C3, but I don't think we can get there in the setback portion. So I think it would have to. Just to kind of summarize, my vote would be that we move to disapprove the setback, deny that, and then we can, I would say, move to approve the encroachment, I guess I'll call it, with the understanding and verbal acknowledgement that they're going to put in the smaller width pool. That's where I'm at right now.
Can I ask a point of clarification for the board? Is there even a need to act or make a motion on the 28-foot setback variance request, since, I mean, it kind of goes away? I don't know if you want it for your records or not. It doesn't matter to me. I was just.
You probably could withdraw it.
As I've been part of some before where you can withdraw it and say, listen, we're not asking for that anymore. We don't want you to consider it.
Okay.
Well, if I could weigh in on that, we typically don't like requests to get modified in the process just because we don't want to react on the spot. So what I get what you're saying, Brian. I love the idea, but I would probably say let's deny that request based on them building a smaller dimension, just so we're not acting.
Yep. No problem at all. Just my 2 cents.
But I think so, Tammy. Here's where that's a problem for me. We're not, if they're building a smaller dimension, we wouldn't deny it, because now that's, we can't deny it based on a smaller dimension. It's
Right.
It's moot at that point.
Well, what we can do is we can approve the variance from the separation requirement based on the fact that they build a pool that's 16 feet in width, right? So we have some documentation of what our agreement is.
Yeah, and I guess, I would vote to disapprove if there's the request for an 18-foot pool, and then hopefully that, creates a situation where they put a 16-foot one in. There's no precedent that we've created that's created a problem.
That's probably how we could do it, Joe.
I was going to say, I think we deny, if they don't withdraw the request for variance into the 2 foot or 2 feet into the required 28-foot rear yard setback, we would deny that, period. That means they have to meet it. However, on the second one, which is the variance to 074C3, to allow them to encroach 3 feet 1 inch into the 10-foot setback, we would have a motion to approve it. And
No,
then
you're right.
they're going to have to adjust this pool in order to meet those 2 actions.
Yeah. So basically at this point,
You're right. Much cleaner. You guys have you've taught me a lesson. I get it.
well, I would move to disapprove the non-variance request under 153.023C4 to encroach 2 feet onto the 28-foot rear requirement as applied for with the 18-foot width pool.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Dashler,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yeah.
Mr. Nye,
Thank you. Now, for the second variance request, which was to approve a variance to the zoning code under section 153.074C3 to permit a swimming pool to encroach 3 feet 1 inches into the required 10-foot distance from the principal structure to the edge of the swimming pool. Is there a motion to approve that variance?
I'll move, and as discussed, with the understanding that based off the last vote, that the applicant will reduce the size of the swimming pool to a width of 16 feet.
And is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Dashler,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that's good.
All right.
What just happened?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was great.
You get
Thanks
a hot
lot.
tub instead. Congratulations.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great discussion, and appreciate the partnership. So
Yeah, and
much.
appreciate your responses to the questions, many questions. So thank you.
absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. We don't have any more cases for tonight, but before we adjourn, is there anything on communications?
We can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Zach, you can jump in. I just wanted to let a few things come to light with the group. We've had a few staff changes. Claudia Husak has left the city, and we actually have another announcement, Deviani Pranik, which probably is not a name that this group has been associated with, but she's in our long-range planning division, has accepted a position with CODA. So we are looking to hire a few new faces. So if you know any planning buddies, let us know. But we'll let you know as soon as those positions are filled and we're back to staffing levels.
Also, you think we will have hearings in March?
Yes, it is likely that we will have a meeting in March.
What's the date?
March 25th is the date.
Let me grab my
That's-
calendar.
That is,
That's it, Zach.
That's a Thursday, right?
yeah,
Yes.
that's a Thursday.
Okay.
It's the Thursday before Palm Sunday, and I only know that because Easter Sunday, Good Friday is around.
Is during, right. Yeah,
Month
it's,
and
I think,
fourth.
yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay that day.
All right. All right, well, we will plan for our hearing to occur on March 25th, and we'll look forward to receiving our materials. And if there's nothing else, that'll be my last hearing as a member of this board. And it has been my pleasure, but I will get to say goodbye again next month. And if there are no further questions or comments, the meeting again is March 25th at 6:30, and this meeting is adjourned.
Oh, wait, real quick, Tammy, are we still doing virtual? We get to come in.
Yeah, we'll be doing virtual, probably, I would estimate, into the summer, to be honest.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, thank
See ya.
you.
Thanks, guys.
See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.